Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I have been converted. How's it going? Oh, Jensen Huang, I would I'd like to suckle your. So I got the pleasure of really playing around with and reviewing the best video card I've ever had the the fortunality of putting in my system. A GTX 1070. That's almost laughable, seeing as there's like 5 better Nvidia cards than that, and I'm this impressed already. Now, this is no cheap card. It is $400 minimum. Even this snazzy little deal that I reviewed here, this Asus, which is no better than a reference card, it just mopped the floor with anything I've ever played with, Nvidia or AMD wise. It's pretty impressive. I was very, very impressed. It never broke a sweat, and it always did 60 frames a second or better with every single setting turned on in every game that I could throw at it. So cue an intro. We're going to talk about this GTX green card here and why it kind of changed my mind on a few things, and we'll compare it to some other things and some stuff, and we'll see where we go from there. So cue an intro, then talk about it. Hello. So, I've been converted. This snazzy little number here is not any sort of crazy fan triple beam thing going crazy, and it was able to mop the floor with anything I've played with from the likes of AMD so far. I'm sure it would even mop the floor with an R9 Fury X, so a 1070, a $400 graphics card here, does better than anything AMD has on the market or has had on the market, and that's saying something. That's awesome. Now, this thing being no better than a reference model, it's basically the cheapest 1070 you can buy, is still $400, and it was probably even a little more than that, closer to the launch of the 1070. But the proof is in the pudding. It performs very, very, very well. Let's get to some specifications. It has 1920 CUDA cores, base graphics clock of 1506. There's a processor in it as well that does 1683, some sort of tandem coordination of processors there. And then the memory clock is 8 gigabits per second. That's crazy. 8 gigabytes of GDDR5, 256-bit memory bus, support for SLI, CUDA, blah, 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 this and that and the other thing.
31 bamboo floor upgrades, cheaper, stronger. I can't read this word. 32 wireless crappability. That one explains itself.
Let's talk about how it actually felt, because that's where things kind of got weird for me. I've been kind of an AMD boy lately because it's expensive to get a high-end card from Nvidia, and they often ignore the cheaper cards. They don't perform maybe as well as the RX side, or if they do, I don't know. It's because AMD has only had that lower end. They've been putting a lot more effort into it. At least that's the way I see it. But this 1070, you plopped it in here. The fan barely turned on. It was very efficient and quiet, and max every setting at 1080p, because I only have a 1080p monitor, much like 99% of you still do. And when I do this with my RX 480 or that R9 390X that I just reviewed, I expect to get 60 frames a second, and with everything turned on, I get 58. Or there's dips with certain things, and the hair works, or with anti-aliasing and tessellation and stuff like that. But with the 1070, everything on over 60 frames a second, constant, no problem. Never had it never broke a sweat, and that was awesome. This card is the ultimate 1080p card. Now you might say it's actually like more of a 1440p card or a 4K card. No, it's the ultimate 1080p card, because there's nothing you can throw at it that it won't do 60 frames a second at. It was beautiful to play on. But if you're going for 4K, I would say get a better card. Get a 1080. Get a 1080 Ti. get a Titan, get the new Vega that's coming out. But at 1080p, I gotta say, if you have the $400 and you don't plan on upgrading your monitor anytime soon, it's the most buttery experience you'll get. Now, maybe AMD will have an offering in this price range or cheaper that has the same performance with Vega. I could see that happening, so I might, be biting my words soon. But I was very impressed to plop this in here, and it just breezed through everything I threw at it. And AMD could not touch it right now, so that's saying something. Let's go ahead and check out the benchmarks, and we'll compare it to the 480, my RX 480, because why not? They have kind of the same, the same stuff going on, but it'll kind of put some perspective to just how good this thing performs. And when we come back, we will sum things up. So, the GTX 1070 is a pretty good card, I would say, until 4K or even 1440p becomes the absolute mainstream, and you can buy a 4K monitor for like $250 at your Best Buy. I would say most people are going to be sticking with 1080p, and this card is going to look pretty enticing because, like I say, there is not a worry. I was always hoping with my RX 480 that I can turn everything on and still get a fluid experience, but I always have to turn one or two settings down. With this 1070, there was loads of headroom when you turned everything on at 1080p, and that was impressive to me. But as 4K and all that stuff comes further, that will remain to be seen. And when Vega comes out, will they have an offering that will make this thing obsolete? I think that might actually happen. But that, for the foreseeable future, this is a pretty damn good card, and I would recommend it if you've got $400 burning it in your pocket. Don't even get the special crazy versions with all the fans, because this Asus with a blower fan on it did just fine. And there's no reason to, push it to its max. You could even overclock it by just a little bit and get 5 to 10% more performance right off, right, even with this cooler. So, pretty cool card. I am Timmy Joe. I'm at Watch Timmy Joe on Instagram and Twitter. I really do appreciate you watching my videos. There is more content on the way. I'm going to do some stuff and some things. But hit me up on Twitter. I love Twitter because, I put pictures of the stuff I'm doing up on there. And I will talk to you very soon in another video.